After spending weeks planning a backyard wedding for my sister, our neighbor decided to start a bonfire right next to our fence the morning of the ceremony. I rushed over, still in my pajamas, and begged, "Please, can you hold off for just a few hours?" He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Should have invited me." Too late now. As we walked down the aisle, thick black smoke billowed into our yard. My sister whispered, voice shaking, "I can't breathe," as guests ran inside. We later found a note jammed into our mailbox, "Next time, don't snub the important people." I've lived in Springfield, Missouri my whole life. Never thought I'd say this, but sometimes quiet neighborhoods hide the worst people. My husband Rick and I own a modest house in a cul-de-sac that used to be peaceful. Nice neighbors. Retired couples. Some younger families. We all mostly kept to ourselves but waved when passing by. Until Wade Renner moved in 3 years ago. Wade. Mid-50s. Balding, wiry, with a perma-smirk that made you feel like he was always 2 seconds away from being an ass. We all tried at first. Brought him cookies when he moved in. Rick helped him haul a washing machine into his basement once. But Wade was one of those people, you give him an inch, and he takes the whole damn yard. By year 2, the complaints started rolling in. Loud power tools at night. Fires burning for hours with weird smells. Arguments with the HOA that he always seemed to win by skating technicalities. I kept my distance. I figured he was miserable and wanted company in his misery. No thanks. My younger sister, Samantha, got engaged last fall. She's always been the baby of the family, even though she's 27. Her fiancé, Eli, is quiet, dependable, and adores her. When they decided they wanted a simple, intimate backyard wedding, Rick and I offered up our place. Sam lit up like a kid on Christmas. "I don't want a big church thing," she said. "Just family. Close friends. The people who actually care." We spent weeks prepping. Rick and Eli built a wooden arch wrapped in silk flowers and eucalyptus. My mom flew up from Florida and helped us string white lights through the trees. I hired a local company to deliver a tent, chairs, and tables. The whole neighborhood could see the setup. It wasn't subtle. Every day, we were outside working. Wade? He watched. He sat in a ratty lawn chair with a beer, sunglasses on, pretending not to stare. I didn't think much of it. He wasn't on the guest list. Not because of bad blood, just because we weren't close. That was apparently my first mistake. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday at 2 p.m. That morning, I got up early to set out the centerpieces. Still in my pajamas, flannel pants, old t-shirt. I slid open the back door and smoke. Not a little barbecue smoke. Thick, black smoke. Heavy and sour, like burning paint and trash. I froze. My stomach dropped. I turned toward the fence. Wade had built a bonfire pit, if you can even call it that, right against our shared fence. Old plywood, broken furniture, and what looked like parts of a mattress were already crackling away. Flames roared upward, way taller than they should have been. I could feel the heat from 20 feet away. I grabbed my slippers and bolted over. "Wade. Wade." He stood there, arms crossed, watching the flames like he was proud of them. A cigarette dangled from his lips. "Can you stop this?" I pleaded, coughing. "Please, just for a few hours?" "My sister's wedding," he cut me off. No smile. Just a cold, flat stare. Should have invited me. Too late now. Then he tossed another chunk of wood into the fire and walked back inside. My mouth went dry. I stood there, ash flakes landing in my hair, heart racing. This can't be happening. By 10 a.m. Guests were arriving. They tried to ignore the smoke at first. Some joked nervously about backyard ambience. Others kept fanning their faces, coughing politely. By 12:30 p.m., the smoke was constant. Black plumes rolled over the fence and drifted straight into the seating area. It clung to the white tablecloths, soaked into the flower arrangements. My mom dabbed at her eyes, not from tears but from the sting. Sam arrived around 1 p.m. She looked beautiful. A simple satin dress, hair pinned up with fresh lilies. When she saw the smoke, her face crumpled. "We can still do this," I told her. "We'll make it work." She nodded. She tried to be brave. The ceremony started on time. Sam walked down the aisle, bouquet trembling in her hands. As she passed me, she whispered, "I can't breathe." Her voice shook. Her eyes watered. By the time the minister got to the vows, half the guests had moved inside. A few left entirely. My mom kept looking toward the fence like she wanted to march over and start swinging. But it was too late. The day was ruined. The next morning, I found it. Our mailbox door was slightly open. Inside, a folded sheet of yellow notepad paper. "Next time, don't snub the important people." No signature. As if I didn't know who it was. I showed it to Rick. He clenched his jaw so tight I thought he'd break a tooth. "I'll call the cops," he said. But I shook my head. No. That's what he wants. A quick fight. A chance to paint us as overreacting. I wasn't going to give Wade what he wanted. I was going to do worse. First, I started asking around. Quietly. Messages to neighbors. Little chats at the grocery store. I wasn't alone in my anger. Turns out, Wade had built a long list of enemies. 2 years ago, he bulldozed a community flower bed because he claimed the flowers blocked his sightline. Last year, he burned tires in his yard. A neighbor's son ended up in the ER with an asthma attack. Multiple times, he was reported for excessive noise and illegal structures on his property. But the kicker? He was already on notice with the city for violating burn ordinances. One more complaint could trigger heavier fines, or worse. That's when I knew I had a path forward. I filed a formal complaint with the city. Not a flimsy online form. A full report, with photos of the wedding smoke and a timeline of events. But I didn't stop there. Tracy, another neighbor who Wade had alienated, had a cousin who worked for the Springfield Gazette. We pitched a story, not about Wade specifically, but about the dangers of illegal backyard burns and rising neighbor disputes. The paper loved it. They even sent a photographer. A few days later, the article dropped, "Springfield residents fed up with backyard fire hazards." Front and center? A photo of Wade's yard, piles of junk stacked near the fence. His bonfire pit clear as day. People noticed. The neighborhood Facebook group blew up. People started sharing their own stories of Wade's behavior. I started a petition, "Enforce burn laws strictly in residential areas." Within 3 days, I had 43 signatures out of the 50 homes in our area. Even people who usually kept quiet signed it. The city responded. Code enforcement paid Wade a visit. First violation, $350 fine for illegal burning. Second violation, $500 fine for hazardous materials stored improperly. He tried to fight it. Claimed he was being targeted. But nobody came to his defense. Not this time. Then came the final piece. Wade ran a side hustle welding custom metal signs and furniture. He sold them at weekend markets and shipped them from his garage. Through a little digging, thank you, Tracy again, we discovered he wasn't licensed for commercial production. Worse, he stored flammable paints and solvents in non-approved containers. That was a huge fire code violation. I filed an anonymous report with the fire marshal and zoning board. 2 weeks later, an inspection shut down his business. He'd either pay thousands in upgrades, or stop selling altogether. He stopped selling. For a while, it was quiet. Too quiet. I should have known Wade wouldn't just roll over. About a month after the fire marshal shut down his business, small things started happening. First, someone dumped a bag of nails across my driveway. Rick's truck caught 2 flats. Second, our trash bins went missing twice. Found them later down by the creek, smashed. Third, our dog, Rosie, a gentle golden retriever, came inside one night smelling like motor oil. We rushed her to the vet. She was okay, but someone had obviously poured or splashed oil near where she roamed the yard. I didn't need a detective to tell me who was behind it. The problem? Proving it. Wade was smart enough not to get caught. Rick wanted to install security cameras. I agreed. We mounted 2, one facing the driveway and one aimed across the backyard toward Wade's fence. It didn't take long. One night, around 2:45 a.m., the backyard camera picked up movement. A figure slipped through the shadows near the fence. Hoodie pulled up. He knelt down and placed something against the wood. A second later, he lit a match. Fire starter. But what Wade didn't realize was that the rain earlier that evening had soaked the grass and fence base. The fire never caught. Instead, the camera caught his face when he lowered his hoodie for a moment, probably to check why it wasn't burning. Rick and I downloaded the footage and backed it up to 3 different devices. The next morning, I called the police. An officer came out. Watched the footage. Took a statement. But this is where it got tricky. The officer explained, the video is solid, but since the fire didn't actually spread or cause damage, this would likely be classified as attempted property damage or reckless endangerment. It's a misdemeanor unless he's already got a record. I pressed my lips together. So you're telling me he can literally try to burn down my yard and get a slap on the wrist? The officer sighed. We'll file charges, but unless you want to take this to civil court for damages, the criminal side will only go so far. Rick was furious. So what's the point of laws then? We'll arrest him. He'll get a court date. But you should prepare for the long haul, the officer said. This guy's the type who escalates. I nodded. Good. I'll escalate, too. By now, everyone on the street had heard. Word spread faster than gossip at a church potluck. Tracy organized a neighborhood watch group. Not the hokey kind with flashlights and whistles. We pulled money for extra security cameras and motion lights. Even the quiet families who never got involved before now stood with us. Some neighbors started calling the city every time Wade moved junk into his yard. Code enforcement visits became a weekly occurrence. 2 more fines stacked up. His front yard looked like a sad graveyard of failed projects and half-cleaned messes. Around this time, Wade's adult son, Kyle, who occasionally stayed with him, packed up and left. I overheard Kyle yelling one afternoon as he shoved bags into his old Honda, "This is why Mom left, you psycho. You never stop. You can't let S***T go." He peeled out of the driveway. Never came back. Wade's isolation became complete. But he still had one card to play. One evening, a man in a cheap suit knocked on my door. He handed me a folded letter. Notice of intent to sue. Wade was claiming defamation, loss of business income, and harassment. His lawyer, who I later found out was a budget attorney Wade found online, argued that my complaints and the neighborhood petition had destroyed his livelihood and damaged his mental well-being. Rick read the letter 3 times before laughing out loud. He's suing you? After all this? I didn't laugh. Because here's the thing, lawsuits, no matter how baseless, cost money to fight. We couldn't afford endless legal battles. And Wade knew that. But I wasn't going to back down. I called my own attorney. My lawyer, Ms. Jolene Marks, was a bulldog. She reviewed the lawsuit, scoffed, and filed a counterclaim. Not just for harassment, but for intentional infliction of emotional distress, attempted arson, and endangerment of a minor, since my niece had been in the backyard the night Wade tried to start the fire. Ms. Marks also submitted the security footage and all the complaint records from the city. "Oh," she said casually, flipping through papers. "And I've notified your homeowner's insurance. They'll cover legal fees and might even pursue him for reimbursement if damages are awarded." It was like watching a pro athlete step onto a little league field. Once the counterclaim was filed, Wade panicked. I know because 2 weeks later, a for sale sign appeared in his yard. But it was too late. Between the fines, the shut-down business, the legal mess, and his alienation from the entire neighborhood, no buyers were interested. The house sat. Grass grew tall. Junk piled up again. Meanwhile, Samantha and Eli, finally breathing easy, started planning a vow renewal for the upcoming spring. This time, no compromises. No fears. No Wade. But something told me Wade wasn't quite done. Winter came. Cold winds, bare trees, and the neighborhood quieter than ever. Wade's house sat on the market, unsold. Weeks turned to months. Real estate agents stopped bringing buyers by once word got around. Nobody wanted to live next to someone labeled in the local newspaper and the neighborhood Facebook group as a fire hazard and a lawsuit risk. Then, one night in late February, around 11:30 p.m., Rosie, the dog, started barking at the back door. Rick got up to calm her. But when he looked out the window, he froze. Someone had spray-painted our back fence. Big, sloppy red letters, "Back OFF or else." It wasn't signed. It didn't need to be. We called the police. Again. The officer documented it. Again. But with Wade's charges pending and his countersuit now a complete joke, the cops mostly told us to stay vigilant. Ms. Marks wasn't fazed. "He's desperate. That's all this is. He's cornered." By late March, Wade's lawsuit was officially dismissed. My counterclaim? That moved forward. The day of the hearing, Wade showed up alone. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just defeated. Baggy hoodie. Jeans sagging. No lawyer. Ms. Marks presented our evidence, the wedding smoke incident. The threatening note. The failed arson attempt. The vandalism. Witness statements from 5 neighbors. Wade tried to interrupt twice, saying we were all colluding against him. The judge shut him down both times. Then Ms. Marks dropped the hammer. She revealed that my homeowner's insurance had paid nearly $9,000 for property cleanup, fence repainting, and increased security costs, and they were joining the case to recover damages. Wade's face went white. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. Wade was ordered to pay $17,500 in damages and legal fees. He had 60 days. Of course, Wade didn't have the money. And he refused to pay. The court put a lien on his property. That meant even if he sold the house, the proceeds would go to us first. His listing price dropped again. And again. Still no takers. Then came the day that ended everything. On an early April morning, sirens woke us up. Red and blue lights flickered against the bedroom walls. I looked outside and my stomach dropped. Wade's house was on fire. Real fire. Not his usual junk pile blaze. Flames burst through the roof. Smoke billowed high into the sky. Fire trucks arrived fast, but it was too late. By sunrise, most of the structure was gone. The fire chief later told reporters it looked like an electrical fault from overloaded outlets and improper storage of flammable materials. No foul play suspected. No charges filed. Wade had done it to himself. He stood across the street that morning, arms crossed, watching his life burn down. No beer in hand. No smirk. Just a hollow, blank stare. A month later, Samantha and Eli's vow renewal went off without a hitch. The backyard was perfect. Flowers. Lights. Music. Family. The sun set behind the trees, no smoke in sight. Rosie even wore a little flower collar. As Samantha walked down the aisle, she paused halfway and whispered, "I can breathe." I smiled. "So can we." Wade? He vanished after the fire. The insurance company refused to pay out because of multiple code violations. The property was condemned and eventually bulldozed. No one's seen him since. Some people fight fire with fire. Me? I fought fire with patience. And I won.